Dr. H. Wainhouse is the Distinguished Research Professor of Theology, Law, Culture, and Archaeology at Faith International University and Seminary in Tacoma, Washington. He and his wife, Irina, have taught and directed many tours in the Mediterranean and Middle East, including Israel, Greece, Egypt, Jordan, Italy, and Turkey, particularly with the Biblical Archaeological Society. Dr. House has taught biblical and theological studies at several universities and seminaries during a teaching career of over 50 years and has written 150 articles and 50 books, including the Evangelical Dictionary of World Religions, The Jesus Who Never Lived, Exposing False Christs and Finding the Real Jesus, the Zondervan Handbook of Biblical Archaeology, Israel, the Land and the People, an Evangelical Affirmation of God's Promises, and editor of the Nelson NKJV Study Bible and Nelson New Illustrated Bible Commentary. Dr. House is the general editor of the Evangelical Exegetical Commentary Series, 44 volumes, with Logos, Faith Life. It is the knowledge amassed from these experiences, along with the assistance of biblical scholars at a variety of universities and seminaries throughout the world, that provides the information contained in his latest project, the House Visual Study Bible Online. Thank you for joining Archaeology and the Lands of the Bible with Dr. H. Wainhouse.
And here we are back. Oh, wow. We got all by herself today.
Wow.
Did you kick your parents out, MJ?
No, I just needed to also do some schoolwork while we're doing this. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll let that happen. That's okay. We're gonna have to do a short experiment here because you were hearing echoing.
Not anymore.
Well, I know because I turned off, I think, the offending one, which happens to be the slides. So we're gonna try something different here, and just to see if it's gonna work or not.
Okay.
I got that.
I did not know slides could do that.
Well, there's something. It's happened to Ron and I earlier today, and it was couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
Now, are we good? Can you hear us? Okay.
Yeah. So far,
no,
so good.
no echo.
Yep.
Okay. Cool beans. Iftikhar has joined us too.
All right.
So, Dr. House, now that I've wasted a few seconds here just doing tech stuff, welcome everybody. How are you doing, Dr. House?
I'm doing pretty good right now. I've been at this conference, as you know. I was teaching today on archaeology to a group, and this is a group I've been working with since 1999. It's a really fine group of people called WHW Ministries. So, but I'm skipping the talk tonight because I'm doing this, which is fine.
Well, we're glad you're doing it because we couldn't do it, as we've already discussed between ourselves.
That's right.
Because I have rocks in my head doesn't mean I understand how they work or how old they are. I just don't get that.
Mm-hmm.
So, where do you want to start? We're doing archaeology and the cities of a young guy named Paul. No one really knows who that is, probably.
I think I sent that to you.
Yeah, you did. It's right there. There's slide 1.
There you go.
Well, that's explanatory. So can you?
Okay. How about that?
Okay, we're getting closer.
Okay. How about that? Why the study of Greece?
All right, Greece. Well, that's an important area. I mean, so many interesting things came out of Greece.
Mm-hmm.
And in the days of Paul, the Greek culture was still permeating throughout the world, basically. It's interesting that you could have a community that had such a hold on people as far as the language and philosophy and religion.
Yeah.
They were a very strong culture. So I don't know if we have anything would counterpart that any more than sort of the what we see having happened, let's say, in England and America. But even, because it's had such an influence.
Mm-hmm.
But Greek, of course, is basically influenced by the fact that Alexander carried it to the entire known world at that point. So,
So that's what this little thing is about here, all right? Why study about Greece?
Yeah, because the New Testament's written in Greek. New Testament's written in Greek, And the Old Testament was translated, as you will know, the Hebrew Old Testament translated into Greek. So it had a very important influence over pretty well everyone. Even at the time of Antiochus Epiphanes, as you probably know,
Mhm.
at one of the generals of Alexander, when he came, and he was given control basically of what we think of as Israel today, and he instigated and introduced into the Jewish culture the Greek culture to the point that it was beginning until the revolt of Simon Bar Kokhba, was taking over. I mean, young
Right.
people were doing their various activities, their sports in the nude, which is obviously anti-Jewish way of viewing. And you had influence with abandoning the temple in many ways. So
Mm.
the Greek had a lot of influence, but from our standpoint, we have to understand the Greek New Testament. One of the problems we encounter sometimes is that people don't properly, even translators, pay attention to the New Testament Greek. They tend to say what everybody else said before their translation. They tend to follow each other.
Hmm.
I think part of that's because I had one of the guys translating in a particular translation, fairly new, that I will not mention. But nonetheless, he said they were given 10 minutes per 10 minutes per verse to translate.
Oh,
And I thought, my goodness, there are times I spent hours on the verse trying to figure out certain things.
yeah.
And
If
so
I
they
if
just,
I if I can interrupt just for a second, I'd like to say one of the joys I have in the church where Dr. House attends is that his knowledge of Greek is way beyond just Koine Greek back to classical Greek. And so I can give him any word and he has 1,000-year context in which to place that word. And I just thought that's a plug of something that is a big blessing to me with him coming into our congregation
Mhm.
3 or 4 years ago. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's what we're here for, to interrupt Dr. House as often as possible.
We don't want to make them feel left out. We do it to everybody.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you saying that, because it's important to have those who actually have done the work of understanding these languages. I have like 3 friends that are Hebrew scholars, and as I've had to deal with the Dr. Heisler stuff, every time I write something, I send it to them to say, okay, is this
Exactly.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's important.
So
Definitely.
keep me out of hot water.
Mhm.
and speaking of that, though, there are some really good examples. One of the biggest ones, if you go to the House Visual Study Bible, you can check it out. On John 15, people have really goofed that passage up.
Mhm.
For one reason, they don't understand viticulture. I actually when I did translations on stuff like this, I actually read books that relate to the subject area.
Mm.
So when I did John 15 on the branches and the vines issue, I read 2 books on viticulture to understand how do they go about the process.
Mm.
And then when you look at the Greek words, you realize that people didn't even consult apparently the best dictionaries, because every single dictionary and I have a lot of various Greek dictionaries of different periods and so forth,
Mm.
and all of them translated it the correct way on the first definition, contrary to what they were translating in the translations that we have today.
Mm.
So I just wonder sometimes about, the I don't know, the carefulness that goes into translation.
Sure.
Yeah, because it is more than just how can the word be translated, but what is the context in which we find it that
Correct.
helps to understand all of that.
Mhm.
So
anyway, that's on the fact of Greek. Greek had a great influence in philosophy and in language, not to mention some of the other kind of considerations on cultural matters
Mm.
that influenced the world. So Greek is important, and it held its importance through the early church all the way up into the time of the Reformation. The great influence of Greek in the ancient world, both as to its culture and its various influences. So I think that deals with that. And Paul, when he decided to do his ministry, when he started out from Israel, he was up in the Cyprus, and we know the stories about that. And I really don't have that in my presentation as far as the PowerPoint right now. But he moves up into Asia Minor, but which you're really dealing with again very strong Greek culture. And then he moves into going into places like Corinth and Athens. And I'm not sure he ever went to Delphi, but he clearly went to Corinth and Athens and some stuff at the place where this religion of Apollo, which had some influence on Paul's teaching in 1 Corinthians 12-14, that I wrote an article on years ago. And I wrote that article, by the way, when I was still a Pentecostal. But I disagreed with a lot of things going on because it was contrary to Paul's development of the idea that we find in 12-14 of 1 Corinthians. And I thought it was more important to follow the scriptures than any particular other idea I had.
Sure.
So anyway, we're going to look at a few of these things in our presentation tonight. And we can't cover everything. There's hardly any way in an hour you can go through all of these things. But I thought we'd try to take maybe in Athens. I thought we'd deal with Corinth. There's some really cool stuff there.
Cool.
Say a few things about Delphi and what that refers to. And then if you move to Thessalonica, Berea, Philippi, Lydia, and Meteora, I better sway you on Meteora. The others, that's actually up into the area of what we think is Thrace, and also the area of Philippi, which is where Alexander came from. So we'll focus on the southern area of what we would call Greece. And that has enough to take our time, I'm sure. If not, we can always move up. So you're looking at a map.
We are.
And so the fact is, Greece is you have to focus largely on Eastern Greece for most of our thinking. But on the other side of the mountains there, what place called Meteora, there's some fascinating pictures. I think I may have included those. I hope so. I did a tour for the Biblical Archaeological Society once, in which we covered Greece and Turkey. But we went to the western portion of Greece that I had never seen before, but I thought, let's launch over there. I'd like to look at it. And you have these gigantic, how do you even call them? They're just solid stone, gigantic stone that goes way up into the air. And yet you have things like houses and monasteries and things built at the top. And I think, how could you ever get all that stuff up there and build that on top of that big piece of stone?
Wow.
And so that's where I think I have some pictures on that. If not, I'll do it another time.
Okay.
But I think we should maybe move up into our studies, first of all, in Athens. Now, let me say something first, and that is Thessalonica is where Paul was before he came to Athens. But I wanted to wait on Thessalonica to join it with the other northern areas. So we'll go back to that and cover that as they sort of like you covered everything below, they went back and took up and headed across. So we'll start with Athens and head down first.
Athens. Oh, so you want me to skip through? I'll start skipping through, and you tell me when to stop.
Well, let me see where we are. You can see Achaia there. That's a term. And I'm going to get my glasses on because I don't know if I can see all that right there. Go back one.
Go back. Okay, good.
Yeah. Yes. The area that I'm interested in is you've got Achaia there with the Peloponnesian area, and you move in up to Thessaly, it's called, in Macedonia, and then down around this way. That's what I meant to say while ago when I was saying Philippi, Macedonia. And Thessaloniki, they call it Thessaloniki today, but that area, of course, if you move up that area, you're getting to Mount Olympus, which I have not done.
Oh.
And so they move across there. So you can sort of see where we're talking about.
Sure.
You move.
Thessalonica is here.
Right. And you end up going across the bridge, as it were, across the northern portion there from Thessaloniki, in which you go right across the Thrace into what we call it was Constantinople, it's called Istanbul today, the Islamic area. So I think that's what we're going to look at some, but we won't do, I doubt if we get into Macedonia and Thrace and those issues today.
Okay. Conquest of Alexander the Great.
Yeah, Alexander, who he was trained by?
I don't know. He looks like a rock and roll singer.
He does. Like Journey or something.
He was trained by Aristotle, wasn't he?
He was trained by Aristotle, who was trained by
Plato.
By Plato was the grandfather.
Plato, actually.
It's then Socrates, then Aristotle.
he was the one that was the trainer,
Yeah.
and then from him before him was Socrates.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the level of these kind of philosophers. There's a lot of things to be said about these people, and in my training, I had to read them all in classical Greek, basically, which is a little different than New Testament Greek, but it's it's all Greek to me.
Talk Greek to you.
So anyway, and just to give you a feel, though, Alexander, when he came, he really didn't find a need to conquer southern Greece so much. He was really trying to deal with the issue of what was the Persian Empire at the time. And you're going into the area of Asia Minor. And he moved in from where he was, where his father was Philip of Macedon, who was the head of the, like he was king, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and moving across. So that's just giving you sort of a perspective of where it is. Another way to look at it, this broke it up differently, and that sort of shows you a little bit more. You can see where Thessalonica is, right there at the corner, and Paul, he went there. He was called by the Lord to go there, but when you look at whatever happened in Thessalonica, it never became a major church center, as you think of. You have Berea there, which has a fascinating story, and we'll look at it. And Thessalonica and what happened there, and we can talk about that. But Philippi, of course, you have the letter to them. So the big activity really is in the southern area of Achaia. So we'll spend most of our time there.
Down here, okay.
Okay.
Near Corinth, yeah.
Let's move ahead now. So you can read this passage out of Acts 16:6 through 10. Now, when they had gone through Phrygia and the region, should say region, I think.
Yeah.
Religion of Galatia? No, that doesn't
Region.
make sense. Region of Galatia, somebody mistyped this. And the religion of region of Galatia, they were forbidden by
Let me fact check that.
You got to realize I've had a hard day here all day long at this conference.
Okay.
They were forbidden by the Holy Spirit.
Why don't I do it? Because maybe I could just make stuff up as we go, and it'll sound like it's supposed to, sort of. Now, when they had gone through Phrygia and the region of Galatia, they were forbidden by the Holy Spirit to preach the word in Asia. After they had come from Mysia, they tried to go into Bithynia, but the Spirit did not permit them. So, passing by Mysia, they came down to Troas, and a vision appeared to Paul in the night. A man of Macedonia stood and pleaded with him, saying, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." Now, he pleaded with Paul, saying, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." Now, after he had seen the vision, immediately he sought to go to Macedonia, concluding that the Lord had called us to preach the gospel to them. Acts 16:6 through 10.
Who's the them?
Them, the Macedonians, I would say.
Macedonians first. We'll look at that. That's where we see Philip of Macedon. Okay. And that's also the area that moves from the area of Thrace over to Macedonia. So go back. We're not finished there. But it said, concluding the Lord had called us. Who is the us?
It was him and
Paul and Barnabas, right?
Silas, I think, or
How
Timothy.
about
it would have to include Luke because he's writing it.
Luke?
Yeah.
And so he's a major player. We sometimes forget Luke, but he was always around writing this down. If we didn't have Luke,
and you can tell. See, it's a good point that you're leading to here. You can tell when Luke is with them and when he's not, because he shifts between them, they, and us.
right?
Yeah.
Good point there. And so Luke has been very important to Christianity. Those two books he wrote are pivotal for us to understand the movement of the spread of the gospel. So So I think we have the point. Paul went first of all to Macedonia, and then he went to what we think of as, we have Berea, we have Thessalonica.
Mm-hmm.
And then he moves south to the major place for Greece, and that's Athens.
Mm.
And so we'll move to that and talk about it. And I'll go back later and go Macedonia and Thessalonica. We'll do that probably after we do this. So this is a picture of a temple on the top of the Acropolis. And the city of Athens is named after the goddess Athena.
Mm-hmm.
Can anybody tell me then exactly what was Athena known for?
Athena.
Wisdom.
Go ahead.
She was known for wisdom in battle.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's appropriate for Athens because Athens was viewed as the intellectual, philosophical center of the world. And so having the goddess of wisdom was sort of a natural.
Mm-hmm.
What was that note? Is that a bell that?
I don't know.
We must have a ding-a-ling in the room. We don't.
There's something I heard. I don't know if you heard. Anyway, there you have a look at the city hill called the Acropolis. Now, you're going to find the word Acropolis or words like that you found also, for example, down at Corinth and other places. When you have polis at the end, what does it mean?
City.
City. And acro here refers to
High.
high, yes. So you have acro Corinth. We don't usually say that way, but there's acro Corinth and there's acropolis, the high city. And so you have the major temples, usually in the ancient world among pagan authors, pagan religionists. They tend to build their temples at high points.
Right.
Now, that has also something to do, even in the Old Testament, how they viewed the gods.
Yep.
And this also follows into the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the paramount idea and why they built the temples like they do here into the high city?
As far as the gods were concerned, I would say that they always thought of them as being higher than them, elevated. That was the idea, I believe.
That's true.
Above them.
That's true.
Above them and kind of unreachable, maybe.
Do you think they thought the gods dwelt in these temples or not?
No, I think that they felt they dwelt above them.
I think they felt some of them dwelt in these temples, up on like Mount Olympus, and
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
It
Mount
seems.
Olympus is a mountain, though, where they believe the gods
well,
resided.
Think about the ancient Near East for a moment. Did the Jews, and I'm going to use them as an example of truth here,
Mm-hmm.
but this extends because you find for example, being down in Egypt, I've been into the temples of deities in Egypt and also into the Holy of Holies in temples in Egypt and other places. So the concept of holy place, holy of holies, temple and worship of the God's dwelling is a consistent idea throughout the ancient world. So was God viewed as being in the temple by the Jews?
Yes.
His presence, yeah.
Yeah, he was. Could they see him?
No.
No, but he had a holy place and a holy of holy place that only the priest could go one time of year.
Mm-hmm.
And even then he had to sort of back in and back out.
Yeah.
It was a very sacred viewpoint from their perspective. And you find that in the ancient world too. And if they're not dwelling in that physical temple, they're at least dwelling in some kind of counterpart. I'll put it that way.
Right.
So I just think it's interesting. I talk to people all the time in hermeneutics. That's just my area. I did my doctorate, one of my doctorates in that area of study. And the fact is there is the sense in which when you are dealing with myths versus history, or you're dealing with various concepts of what's going on in religions, there is a sense of that which is similar and that which is dissimilar. See, a lot of people try to argue, for example, that the Jews simply followed pagans and how they built their structures, their altars, their holy of holies, their temple per se. And were they just simply following the ancient world and developing the temple in Jerusalem?
My answer would be no. My answer would be no for this reason. God gave them instructions on how he wanted it built. So were they just mimicking another culture and then there's a pretense that the Bible taught them to do that? No, I believe that God said, this is how I want you to build it.
Well, this is how a lot of people would view it, though, don't you think? Then when Moses and the people came out of Egypt, they had temples there, and they just got to Israel and said, we need to build a temple.
Well,
my response again is probably not. You know, you're the scholar, so you're going to make me really look wrong, which is I'm okay with that. but they didn't seem like that they were all that excited about building a temple. They were more excited about just let's get us a golden calf, something that we can worship, that we can see, that's physical. The building of something like a tabernacle didn't come until later.
Yeah, but see, they didn't just come and say, let's do that. God actually instructed them to do it.
Correct.
But think about what Solomon's prayer. If you ever take the time to read Solomon's prayer after he finishes the temple in Jerusalem, and he then decides, okay, he's going to do sort of a
dedication
prayer in regards to the completion.
Mm-hmm.
And he said some fascinating things. He said, he says, I built this temple, at your instruction, but I recognize that you are not bound by this temple, for earth is your footstool.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And heaven is your throne.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, but in spite of all of that, he says, whenever your people shall pray toward this temple, Lord, answer their prayers. I think it's a fascinating prayer that Solomon does in his better days. He had troubles later on for things, but he had a perspective, didn't he?
For sure.
Something that's a little different. The question of similarity and dissimilarity.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and Denise' comment was kind of interesting. I don't believe that God would allow copies. So
anyway, well, that's just something, the fact of worship in the Greek world, the language, the philosophy, it was a heavily influential component. Now we're moving down into Athens, so let's move to it. But that's all in Paul's minds as he enters the citadel of Greek philosophical religious ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I put this here first for you to see something. It's not particularly great, but if this is taken from the Acrocorinth, the high, excuse me, I didn't mean to say that, the Acropolis, and where you had the temple to Athena and also one to Hera that we'll mention. This is where democracy began. It's lower. The building, though, that was there previous to the structure you see now, was a place that it wasn't democratic in the sense of what we think of as per se, but it gave an attention. It wasn't just simply a rule by a king. The people who were more prestigious in the community, so to speak, the leadership, sitting on those, came together and made decisions together instead of it just being a dictation from a king.
Right.
So that's the democratic area, and you can see this on the Acropolis. Let's go to the next one.
Cool.
Here's a reading. Now
while Paul was waiting for them in Athens, his spirit was provoked within him as he saw that the city was full of idols. 16 and 17. Wholly given to idolatry, covered with idols, meaning the city, not the inhabitants. Oh, that's good to hear. Petronius, a contemporary writer at Nero's court, says satirically that it was easier to find a god at Athens than a man. This stirred the spirit of the apostle. The first impression which the masterpieces of man's taste for art left on the mind of St. Paul was a revolting one, since all this majesty and beauty had placed itself between man and his creator and bound him the faster to his gods who were not God. Verse 17. So he reasoned in a synagogue with the synagogues and the devout with the Jews and with the devout persons, and in the marketplace every day with those who happened to be there. Therefore he set himself to lift up his voice to the idol city, but as his manner was, he began with the Jews.
Mm.
Let's talk about that. Paul had just come from Thessalonica, and there'll be a point at which we'll talk about that. But he came to Athens. Now, Paul was equipped to come to Athens and deal with this. His training was very good. He was trained in, for example, being in Tarsus, which was a Roman city, by the way. It was, if you were born in some cities like Tarsus, then you were a Roman citizen with all the benefits. Soldiers who wanted to become Roman citizens, I think, and I may be wrong on this, but I think it was something like you had to serve 10 years in the Roman legions
Holy
in order
moly.
to receive citizenship with Rome.
Wow.
If you weren't born in a Roman city, that is.
Right.
So what you encounter here in Acts 17 is that Paul came south, and he was waiting there for the people to come to him, right? Barnabas, and Luke and whoever else was with them. And he was, as a thinker as he was, and trained as he was by Gamaliel and Greek influence and so forth, he was attracted to go to the Acropolis and Mars Hill. Where, by the way, Mars Hill is also the Greek word Areopagus, which means basically the hill of Mars, or the god of Mars, god of war. And so they came there, and you have several things around that we're going to look at. You have what is called a public market, and then one was called a Roman market, which was a place of the political and legal issues. And you go down to the other market, and you were the place you would get something to eat for lunch. So it's a little different in the way they are, but I've got pictures of both where you can see them. And you also have the particular philosophical view that was present there. I mean, there were more than one idea, but you have the Stoic view and you have the Epicurean view of philosophy. Now, does anyone tell me the difference between Stoic philosophy and Epicurean philosophy?
Epicureans probably like food, yes? No?
I think
One thing I've
Epicureans.
observed about this get together we always do.
I think Dr. House, weren't the Epicureans? They were focused on pleasures and living out pleasures, and the Stoics were more of denying pleasures to themselves, denying things.
More self-control on the Stoic side, I think.
Well,
Yeah, they were polar opposites, it seems like.
Yeah, they were opposite, and the Stoics were the predominant, but they had a predestinarian view of the world. And the ones who were Epicurean really thought that they were free spirits. And so those ideas are probably still present.
No.
It's,
Definitely are still present.
Yeah. For sure.
If you think you're the master of your soul, then you probably have one view and over against the other. But the area which is called there the Roman agora, if you want to put it that way, this market, that large building we're going to look at is the one that's there, and it's really ornate, very, very nice. And they had several things there, but you But Paul, and there were different philosophies besides these two, but they were minor.
Mhm.
And the people that were listening to Paul thought that he was attempting to present a new philosophical viewpoint they hadn't heard.
Right.
And they were always interested in hearing the newest philosophical idea and debating it with each people. So Paul had quite a task for him in this setting.
Yeah.
So what is the confusion that they had about Paul's theology? It's sort of interesting.
Oh, what was it? We talked about it before a little bit. Oh,
Well, for one thing, the resurrection of the dead, they had a problem with that.
yeah.
But what do they think the word anastasis, which is the Greek term, what do they think that is? What was he talking about?
Well, I don't know what anastasis is, so I couldn't say.
Resurrection.
Resurrection.
He was about the
Yeah,
resurrection.
that's what I was thinking
They
about.
didn't understand that he was teaching about a resurrection like Jesus, happened and other things like that.
Right.
They thought he was referring to a God's idea. In other words, it was a term referring to, instead of Stoic and Epicurean, it became basically those who believed in some idea of some deity by that name.
Mm.
Of course, Paul said he's there to talk about a God that they didn't happen to mention.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he said, listen, he said, I've looked all over this place, and there's this statue or this stone tablet or some kind of monument they had, in which it was made to the unknown God. And now, over the years, people have been able to find that. There's at least 3 different ones I think I have in the slides, in which at different parts of the empire there was a belief in an unknown God. Now, why do you think they would have a monument or some kind of altar or something like that to a God whose name was not known? They didn't know who he was. Why would you do that?
Just in case they forgot one.
Yeah, they're thinking they missed one.
They're covering their
That's
bases.
exactly true. MJ is becoming the scholar of the group.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a common, not that MJ's being the scholar of the group is a common belief.
I was going to say, what are you talking about?
But that point that you were making, because I remember you saying that all the time. I like to keep my options open.
Oh, that's great.
Unless I miss something. So
Yeah.
My screen is real little now. I'm looking at people, so I can't see who's doing what. I thought it was just
Well, she is a little people now, so that works.
Yeah.
okay. Well, my screen, they're just not big at all. I'm on this laptop instead of my big monitor.
Oh, that's why.
And so it doesn't produce the big screen. But yeah, let me talk about that a second, because see, he comes there. How do you start a conversation with a bunch of scholars, philosophers, who held opposing viewpoints? And he was able to discern a way in which he could present the argument by this statue or this monument he saw that actually says to the unknown God. That he found himself a way to move into the argument. And this is important for us to understand sometimes when people take alternate viewpoints, to find a way to move in with a statement even of the gospel. Because you have people with their different philosophies, and you've got to present an idea that not necessarily had they thought of.
Right.
See? So Paul's very shrewd. Matter of fact, I tried to make available. I wrote an article on this one time in some book, and I'm trying to think, where did I write that? It was because I was dealing with the problem that there are many different ways to approach apologetics. We have different views in which you have some people have one idea of apologetics, and I can't even think of the people's names right now; they escape me. But a view that basically you don't go to any kind of rational argument; you go to the Scripture alone. And then other people who believe that you can have, arguments of that go to just basic logic and so forth. And people vary on that. But I think Paul, in his working with people, would try to find a way in which to approach the subject, a way to make sort of an entrance into their discussion.
Right. To be able to connect with the.
He was very smart at doing this.
Mhm.
But he picked something. Why would you have an unknown God? Because they wanted to make sure, whoever said that, they want to make sure that they covered their bases.
Mhm.
They did not want to. There are so many gods with so many, like our God has all sorts of attributes
Right.
about his own person, right? There's so
Mhm.
many things about God we can say. Their gods were more specialized gods on different topics.
Mhm.
And
There
so
you
he picks the idea that they said just in case they missed something, they wanted to cover their bases, and so
Mhm.
they call that the unknown God. So that's basically the history of it.
Right. I mean, you'd hate to miss a God and have him destroy your town just because he's the one you missed.
Right. Of course.
Right. No, I find it interesting that kind of going back to the earlier topic of where do you think this whole idea of temples coming from, or the people making temples that in all different cultures, because obviously it had to come from an origin, a main source, and it's almost like through the ages of time, it's been missed who we really should be worshiping, but it's inside of each and every one of us that we're seeking. And so I find it just kind of ironic, but so fitting that they have a temple to an unknown God, because that's each and every one of us. We're looking, even the atheist.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a comment. I think that kind of dovetails onto that one, and that is, we think of temples always as these giant ornate things, but it really is where man's attempting to meet with God. And I'm fascinated by the tent that was prior, the tent of meeting that was prior to the tabernacle, where it says that actually Joshua and Moses sat and conversed with the Lord. I mean, they were just in a mere tent. I think it was called the tent of meeting, wasn't it, everybody? And
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
and so it wasn't an elaborate place. It was just a place where they met with the God who was.
Right.
What made it special was his presence.
His presence, yeah.
Very cool.
But of course, the reason why they only had that at that time, I think the reason why they only had a tabernacle is because they were on the move.
Or they were mobile.
It's hard to build. It's hard.
I'm talking about Dr. House. Even prior to the tabernacle, when I was preaching through Genesis, I'd never noticed there was this tent of meeting that was actually prior to the tabernacle, and I never noticed that Moses met with God in that before he got the instructions for how to do the tabernacle.
Right.
And Joshua was with him. It
Yep.
said Joshua would go and frequently be there with Moses. How amazing that would have been to have been in that conversation.
There's a sense in which that's true also even on Mount Sinai.
Yes.
He met with God, and I think Joshua was close by.
You would go up halfway up or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are interesting points to consider, aren't they?
They are.
If we think through this. And so Paul, when he's on Mars Hill, also known as the Areopagus, is the place where the philosophers in this city of Athens were basically the people with the most influence, and they even had a council that judged people in their philosophical views. And so they actually brought Paul onto the hill called of Mars to evaluate whether he was someone who should be somehow have a legal charge brought against him. I mean, you're dealing with a law thing here. It seems such an odd idea to us that you have a bunch of philosophers that have that kind of power, but it was something to be concerned about. But you notice the response to Paul. Now, remember, he did go to the synagogue, right? I think it says he went to the synagogue in Athens.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting that there would even be a Jewish synagogue in a city like Athens. But he always went to his own, religious background with the Jewish synagogues. But on Mars Hill, after he made his elaborate arguments, he did have a number of people who were philosophers who said, we would like to hear you hear more about your viewpoint. Remember that?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So he had some influence even among a group of people that would, if you could go to the American Society of Philosophers, or whatever they call it today, and walk out with a few people having accepted Christ or interest, you've done pretty well.
Yeah, right.
I would say so.
So that's what we have in Athens. Now, Athens is an interesting city. Let's go through and look at some of the views of it, where we can sort of talk about it. By the way, that is not in either of the Agora area. That is the temple to Zeus himself.
Ooh.
It was not kept in great repair, but over the years, it's sort of, because obviously people in the sea believe in the gods of Greece, but it's not in very good shape. But nonetheless, it was a very large. You can tell by looking at it, a very large temple to the major god of the Greeks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it was all filled in there, it'd be gigantic, bigger than the one to Athena. And probably, even though Athens is named after Athena, you would not want to anger the
Father
god,
Zeus.
the the king of the gods.
Right.
He's top dog, and so
Yeah.
I think they had a massive. If you go look at this, I've been there. It's a massive temple, bigger than what you see with Athena on top of the Acropolis.
Wow.
Let's keep moving.
Next. Oh.
That just shows you the kind of structure it is. I just got a closer view.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is I actually took this picture from the place I was eating. And I went outside. I said, what a great picture. They can get everything at once.
Yeah.
Because if you go to Athens, you're going to see, particularly when we go over and look at the forums, that the city is a very large city. I don't know what the actual population is, but it's a massive city, and this stands in the middle of it. By the way, if you ever go to Greece, do not follow my guidance.
Uh-oh.
Let me say that another way. You need to follow my guidance because I made a tragic error. I didn't think about housekeepers coming in and scrounging through my drawers that I had clothes. And I had put in there a envelope with $2,000,
Ah.
and they didn't have a
safe.
A safe. So I hid it among the clothes. I didn't think much about it, but I thought this ought to be good. Well, when I found myself having packed my clothes up, and I didn't think about that issue anymore. And I was on the plane and I was going to give some money to buy something, and I noticed I didn't have an envelope anymore. It had been in something else, and the envelope had been in this other container, and I took the other container, not realizing that somebody had taken the envelope.
Wow.
So you watch yourself in Greece.
Wow. Gets greasy over there, huh? Greasy hands.
So
going back to the more.
So you unwittingly grease somebody's palm. I see.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
I tell you, I wish I could have found that person. I was so angry that I lost. $2,000 is no little money. I mean,
no, that's a nice chunk of change.
Made me mad.
Oh yeah. By the way, the population of Athens currently is 3.6 million.
Oh, okay, pretty good sized city then.
Eighth largest urban area in the European Union.
Yeah, and there's a picture at nighttime. These are, you can see the temple up there. Everything's lighted up. It just sort of gives you a view. This is still the Acropolis, which means the high city. Remember?
Yep. Nice.
That's pretty cool. I have a quick question, and MJ, maybe you can help answer this. Were the Titans ever worshipped?
Oh, the Titans. Yeah. That's a good question.
I'm pretty sure they were. I know amongst like modern Hellenists nowadays, like if you go to some of their websites outlining like the Greek gods, some of the Titans like Kronos are still worshipped.
Okay.
Well, all these were the Greek gods. The Titans were. You actually had them fighting against the Olympian deities, and they have a competition.
Yep.
As who wants to be first. You know? But the Olympian gods sort of won out. I think it's because Zeus could throw thunderbolts.
Yeah. Exactly.
You have the better weapons, you do better. You know.
Yeah.
Now this shot was taken from me flying over the city.
Oh,
I'm joking.
yeah,
Yeah, that would have been a great shot.
yeah,
I'd have
sure
to
would
put
have
it on some kind of hot air balloon or something. I don't know.
been. That would have been nice.
By the way, I don't like height very much. It really gets to me. I'm
Oh.
looking forward to the rapture when I'm 5,000 miles in the air or something. But
You won't feel a thing.
in a 20th of a second, you realize
Yeah.
that's the blink of an eye.
Exactly.
But I guess I'll be okay then. But what you have here is a structure, and we're going to show you closer. And I wish I could remember exactly whose theater that is. But there's part of the Acropolis you're looking at. You see, it's better repaired now. They actually went through and began to repairing the temple to Athena. When I was there, they were working on that, and I suspect they're done with that because I haven't been back in a few years. But this was frequented by people, obviously, going up to worship.
Right. Wow.
This is not part of Athena's temple. This is Athena, who's the wife of Zeus.
Mm-hmm.
Now think about how big Zeus's temple was, and the Acropolis. I think Zeus's wife got the shaft. This is not that. This is not.
No wonder she was always angry and jealous.
Yeah.
Sure was.
That's a good statement. I like that one.
Yeah, they were kicking her
I've
to the
often
curb.
wondered why such a meager, little temple over against the others that you see around there.
Yeah.
So
not a happy camper, that girl.
And another angle. So let's keep moving. I just want to give you a view of some of this stuff here.
Oh.
Now, yes. Oh, I did. I put it in there. Great. I wonder if I did. I was trying to think, who was that? This is known also as Odeon, a classical Greek theater on the southern slope of the Acropolis, built in 161 A.D.
Oh.
So that's who it was. I was trying to think who it. It's not a prominent deity that you think about, or whatever this person is. But nonetheless, that's what you can see the theater where the actors were, and then you remember a lot of these places you're going to see or you did see in Turkey.
Right.
You have these theaters that tend to be fairly steep, going down to the floorboard, and then you have the open area where the slaves actually were doing the acting, basically, and you had the background of that area where they would have probably been behind some covering or something. But this is right on the very edge of the Acropolis.
Wow, nice. Yeah, those stairways look actually better than the other ones.
Look who that is.
What? Is that Wonder Woman?
I got to show you guys a picture of Wonder Woman sometime.
Yeah, compared to her.
Because I told you the story, right? That when I told you the story.
Yeah.
In Israel, and when they thought she was Wonder Woman in the group.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where she lives. So got Gadal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she's pretty close. Okay, Athena is a goddess and protector of Athens. Now, I don't remember where I got this picture, but have any of you been to the temple to Athena in Nashville, Tennessee?
No.
There's one in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes, there is a very nice temple in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's dealing with this particular temple on the top of the Acropolis.
No, I've been to the real one there, the Parthenon, but I've never been to the one in Nashville.
Yeah, they actually have a statue there of Athena.
Okay.
Is it to scale?
Is it
Probably. To
Is
scale?
it to scale?
I think it's pretty well close. The Parthenon, the difference between Pantheon and Parthenon.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Parthenon means maiden, and Pantheon means all gods.
Right.
I believe it is to scale.
Right. There she is.
Wonder Woman.
Hey,
We came in just the nick of time.
I know.
I can,
So yeah, so you have the Parthenon is a word in Greek. Well, you know the word of Parthenos.
Yeah, Parthenos is a maiden or a
It's
virgin.
a virgin.
Ibarajan.
Yeah, it's a virgin, Parthenon.
Mm-hmm.
And over against the Pantheon, which is, for example, you have a Pantheon in Rome. They're the Spanish steps. Anybody been to Rome and the Spanish
No.
steps?
I have been.
Yeah, they have the Pantheon there. They have all the gods are represented as much as possible, I think. And then you have the Parthenon. Of course, Athena was viewed as being a goddess, but she was a young woman, or actually a virgin, as a term. Okay, let's keep moving.
Okay,
But
we
if
can do
you
that.
should go, if you go to Nashville, go to the park there and look at it. It's to scale, I believe.
Wow.
It's an
Probably.
exact reproduction of the
Oh, it
original
is.
temple as it
I would-
was.
I would-
Just a
Okay.
second, I have food to eat.
That
Okay.
would be,
Look with me here. I want to get perspective. Now, this picture is deliberately the way it is. I tried my best to fit in what I needed. And you could see this temple in the midst of a big group of trees and land,
Mhm.
right?
yeah.
Okay. If you come back a ways, you see some red-topped houses or whatever they
Mhm.
are.
Right.
And I'm going to show you a clearer picture. And that now, a lot of people didn't realize I tend to, when I go on tours, I usually roam around and try to see if I can see something I haven't seen while people are just looking at other stuff. And I realized I finally found the separate area of where the agora was not the public political agora and philosophical agora, but was in fact the normal place a person would go and have shopping. And that's exactly what this is. In the bottom right portion of this, that's that, and where the other temple was, that's where you have the various things that relate to the Stoics and the god of Hephaestus, who was what?
Oh, Hephaestus wasn't he god of there's so many names between Romans and Greeks.
Hephaestus is the blacksmith of the god.
Yes, he was a blacksmith, and he was the son of
Hades, wasn't he?
Hera.
Or Hera.
Hera and Zeus.
One of
Yeah.
those two.
It was, well, Hera is the wife of Zeus, and Zeus is father of also.
So Hercules' brother, right? Or half brother of Hercules.
All right, keep moving. Okay, so there's a public one. Just to give you a feel, look at how crowded
Holy
Athens
moly.
is. 2.6 million, but it's fit into a very tight structure.
A lot
Which
of
I'm
tall
used to.
buildings.
Okay, so you have I put the public agora where it was, and you see a little bit of the
The rooms there.
columns and so forth, but that's
Yeah.
our place people went to cover, deal with business and buy things and so forth. So continue on. You know that's there now if you ever get there. And this is the Roman agora, they call it political and also philosophical. And you can see the Hephaestus there again.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing on. So it's just another view. Let's keep going. I want to keep things moving. I'm noticing our time is beginning to go. There's a stoa. There's a stoa. That is a beautiful building, by the way, if you go inside it. There are many rooms. And if you'll look at the stoa here, and you think of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and you realize that they had on that place a building that was built where the Alaska Mosque is now.
Mm-hmm.
They had something very similar to this particular structure on top of the Temple Mount at the time. Who was responsible for building the buildings on top in the first century, other than the temple? Who was responsible for building the building?
I'm just confirming, according to the EI, the Parthenon is the exact scale.
There you have it. The Parthenon's the exact scale. All right. Now you go to Nashville and you feel like you're in Greece.
That's right.
Now, so here they have the Stoa of the Stoics, but then the building on top of the of the Temple Mount that probably the apostles were in when they received the Spirit and the flames of fire and the people gathered. They were not out there in the general market, the general area with people. They were actually sitting down, because you sat down to, in Jewish thought at the time, you sat down to study or hear the word, you stood up to pray. So they probably were set down when Peter was talking and the Spirit came in a room similar to what we see here in the Stoa. It's built very, very similar. And Herod the Great would have had knowledge of this kind of architecture. And that's sort of what he had there, I think. So just in the thought for you to think about. Because you go to look at this and you'll see how wide the rooms are and how easy it would have been for the 12 apostles and people to gather around from the massive area outside that area. Okay, here's a look at it that's sort of been drawn out. So you have in the background, you have the Acropolis, and here you have the Stoa. Continue on. So they said about Paul, they had a good evaluation of him. What is this babbler? And actually the technical term of the Greek is a picker of seeds, like a bird. So see, they say, well, we have a consistent philosophical view, the Stoics and Epicureans, a consistent philosophical view and whatever other view. They have their systems like denominations and churches. And then you're just some seed picker, picking up bits and pieces of philosophical ideas. And that's why he was being charged with. He was a preacher of foreign divinities when he preached on Jesus and the resurrection, anastasis. See, that's the Greek. That makes sense?
Makes sense.
They did not have a high opinion of it.
No, not at all. Wow.
You're not part of our society. You are part of our group. You're some kind of dumb Jew that's come up with has some philosophical ideas.
Right.
Something passes too fast here. I just moved past.
What?
I guess that's it. You have materialist, Eastern philosophical, theist, and so forth, as it would be doing.
Yep.
So I think we've talked about them. We could talk more, but I'm going to move on based on our time. They took and brought him to the Areopagus, and this is what you're talking about. But on top of the Areopagus, I know it doesn't look like it now, but it would have had a building on top of it. And the stairs are very scary to climb up and down. We'll see in a moment. They now have, fortunately, I was over there not too long ago. They've actually built to the far where that car is, and a little bit by the trees, a little car.
Yeah.
They've built now some stairs that actually go up to the Acropolis. You can climb without having to climb the scary stair.
The building that was up on it, Dr. House, looked from the drawings I've seen, looks sort of like our Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C.
Well, I'm going to show you one right now.
Okay.
Cool. That it?
There's the scary stairs. And I want you to know there's a reason why you want to pay attention when you're going up and down these stairs.
Yeah, you don't want to wipe out on those.
I'm glad they built some modern stairs on the far left of that.
And Paul would have gone up and down those stairs. Paul walked on those stairs.
Except in his day, they may not have been quite as...
probably in better shape.
Yeah, better shape to walk on. But here, I don't trust anything. The amount of missing... Look at that woman sitting down. She's going bump, bump, bump.
I think she's going to go one step at a time.
She's moving down just slowly.
Yeah.
And there's Arena again, and that in the background. Continue on. I think I got a picture of the actual meeting. Who is that?
I don't know.
That's Dr. Dean.
There's one person besides me who probably knows who that is.
That's Dr. Robbie Dean.
That's Robbie Dean, one of my former students, and also a very close friend, I think, of Favors.
Yeah.
We saw him just a while ago. He came over here to see R.A. Williams. He hadn't seen him over years. Anyway, there's the Acropolis in the background, me standing on Mars Hill. Continue on. So they take him up there and say, what's this new teaching that you're presenting? These strange ideas.
Yeah.
They had never thought of these ideas whatsoever. They think they're the most brilliant. Go up again. They think the most brilliant people on the face of the earth, and they haven't worked on these issues. So they were somewhat offended, I think, by the idea of a person bringing a new idea up there that was not somehow within their system of thinking.
Yep.
Go up again. I want to be sure that I've covered all that.
Oh, go back one.
Go back.
Yeah.
He said, I perceive your. See, he's being criticized as being an idiot. Okay, because you're teaching something other than what I'm serious. Other than
Yeah.
what you're saying, you're teaching it. You
That's what
obviously are seed pickers, and you're not in our camp. You're not sophisticated like we are. So
Mm.
Paul standing is very smart. Men of Athens, I perceive that in every way you are very religious. For I passed along and observed the object of your worship. I found also an altar with this inscription, to the unknown God. What therefore you worship unknown is what I proclaim to you.
Mhm.
What a brilliant move.
Yeah.
I'm really serious.
Yeah, it is.
That was a real smart move Paul had. Paul was a smart man,
Sure was.
and he figured out how to get into presenting the truth without them thinking he's an idiot. And that's
Exactly.
what we have.
Oh.
And there you have the kind of thing inside there they would have had
Uh-huh.
as it's being visualized. But I don't know. I'd have to study Faber. I have never looked at it about whether it would actually be structured like the Supreme Court building. It's certainly based on the size of the Areopagus, would not have been as big as the Supreme Court building.
Oh no, not at all. But it's like a small version of that. I saw it when I was in Greece. They had a drawing of it there on site, and
I would like to see that if you had a picture of it.
I probably do in my files. I could find it maybe for next week.
It would be interesting to me because this is all I've ever seen, and sort of showing the way they would have been there. He's there, somehow protecting himself and so forth, making the argument. Okay, continue on. Go on. We'll have to move a little faster here. Now, these are some examples of what would I call these things? It's an altar,
Markers or pillars.
it's a column. What are we going to call it? Where if you read the Greek there, and I can't read it from this distance, and probably couldn't if I were close because of the nature of it. Unknown God. Continue on.
Yeah.
It's a big chess piece.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Here's another example which is easier to work with. This is an altar that says on it, unknown God. Continue on.
Next.
And there's another one. All I'm saying to you in these, they have found several examples. Remember, Paul says, I was roaming around and I saw this altar to an unknown God. They had these a lot of places because various communities throughout the Greek world, they wanted to cover themselves in case there was a problem of someone they missed.
Exactly.
There was a situation, I'm not sure I can remember what city. It seemed like for some reason I'm thinking Thessalonica, but I'm wrong probably. Where you had actually a plague that occurred because of the failure to recognize a deity. And now they wanted to cover themselves everywhere they went.
So they had incentive.
Yeah, continue.
Continue, yes, sir.
Okay, keep going. I think I've said enough there. Let's move. Passage demonstrates Paul was willing and prepared to engage the culture. And that's something we have to be willing to do too.
We did that one already.
Is that correct? What are you doing?
I think that's it. Well, it looks like looks like you
casting.
had it in there twice.
Okay,
Corinth
well, that may be the issue there.
Corinth is next week.
It's next week, and that's what I was going to say. But I just wanted to finish that last statement that I made there. And that is the fact Paul was willing to, and the thing it was not only willing to, there's a viewpoint among some that if you somehow receive education, learn a lot, know a lot, that makes you somehow not humble enough or something. But Paul was very educated, as he could possibly be in that age. And it was used to the effect of the preaching of the gospel. Because he was able to figure out how best to approach these men with the gospel who were so connected to their own philosophy. I just think it's a good example in the biblical text of how we should be as knowledgeable as we can be, obviously humble, but knowledgeable as possible to be able to make a commitment to have an impact within our world. Some
Amen.
people want to be ignorant.
Right. Right.
Do I get an amen?
Amen, brother.
Amen.
Okay. Well, we're going to start Corinth next week. I'll actually have my big computer again. I'm excited about that. It's sort of hard to do it here on this little thing. But we'll take Corinth, and that's an area I've spent a lot of time on, much more than Athens. I've done a lot of work on different issues there. And so this is going to be a lot of fun to talk about Corinth and its counterpart in many ways, what we find in Delphi, because Corinth, the major god of Corinth, was Aphrodite, and the counterpart, the man, was Apollos.
Oh, look at that.
Apollo.
Cool. So
And
we'll
we'll be talking about that next week.
Mhm.
all right, we're gonna end the live stream now. So adios to everyone
Adios.
out there.
Sayonara.